Welcome to this week's episode of Forgiving the Girl Inside. Today we have a healing journey with Erica, who is going to share her. I'm going to try to say this big word right now because you all know that I have a hard time with words, but she is a tenacious infertility and holistic health advocate who helps women be empowered and advocate for themselves through the infertility process. She has gone from a healing journey from a 1% chance of conceiving to the mom of four boys. So, welcome, Erica. I'm so glad to have you here.
Hi, thanks. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit more about yourself. You have four boys.
I have
You're this
four boys.
awesome
Spoiler alert. Yeah.
specialist. How old are
Yeah.
your boys?
My boys are from 12 years old all the way down to 5, and I have a set of twins in there. So 12, almost 10. They'll be 10 next month, and then a wild little 5-year-old.
Ah, the fun child.
Yeah.
So tell us about your journey before and the struggles that you had with the infertility and all.
Yeah. So thanks for having me on to share my story. When my husband and I got married, we knew that we were going to have infertility challenges. It kind of wasn't a surprise to us. I had been just prior to getting married diagnosed with something called factor V Leiden. Um, During the time that we were engaged, I had pretty extensive surgery for my endometriosis, which was a stage 4 excision surgery, and I knew that I had uterine fibroids. I had already had some surgeries for those. But somewhere in the back of my mind, we thought that that IVF would be an option for us if none of this other stuff worked out. It's kind of almost everybody's plan B, right? I don't think anybody, says that they want to have a baby and that's their plan A. So it was our plan B, and we knew that we would have challenges, but we felt like, that we still had good chances and that sort of thing. And so right after we got married, we were in the process. We married later in life. It was a second marriage for both of us, but no children. And we had gone to see an infertility specialist, and he kind of dropped the bomb on us that we had like a 1% chance of getting pregnant. And that was really shocking to both of us because um, that's not a very good percentage. So that's not very good news to hear.
Yeah, yeah, especially when you want to start a family and that is. So what did you do? How did you
Yeah,
overcome?
so
Those are slim. Those are very low
right.
odds stats.
Yeah, I was 35 years old. And so I did have some additional surgeries done. We had done a lot of blood work and things like that. But I really felt in my heart and my spirit that we were, meant to have our own children. And so I just kind of went to work doing research in every possible thing that I could get my hands on about how to heal your body, how to heal yourself from infertility, what are the causes of unexplained infertility. So even though I had all these diagnoses, I still was considered an unexplained infertility. That those things alone shouldn't have precluded me from, not being able to have kids. And so I started doing acupuncture for infertility. I made major changes to my diet in a step-by-step process. And at the time, I would have told you that I really felt like I was eating pretty well. Um, but unbeknownst to me at the time, um, I I have a double mutation for MTHFR. So I have all four markers for MTHFR. So as I went through the process of eliminating things, like I started with meat, and went to an all organic protein diet, not all protein, but all my proteins being organic, to remove all the hormones and things like that. And all the things that I did along the way that I really felt like, in hindsight, were led by spirit. Um, were things that I needed to do because of my MTHFR. So, just over and over again, it's become evident to me, that that was the case. And so I just slowly started making the changes to the proteins. And then, I went to ewg.org. I'm sure your listeners, are familiar with that. And I started utilizing the clean 15 and the dirty dozen list, and switching out, the heavily pesticide laden fruit and vegetables, stopped eating fast food. Not that I eat a lot, but we're all consuming, even if you eat organic, you're still consuming pesticides every day. And so
Right.
if you're not actively trying not to, you're actually consuming a lot. So I was consuming a lot of pesticides, and for my situation, my body just couldn't overcome the amounts of toxins that I was putting in my body through food and through personal care products. So that was the next step that I did, was personal care products and that sort of thing. So
Wow. So you just did a complete overhaul inside out, got your gut health, brain health all connected, and just kind
absolutely.
of cleansed everything. So that's amazing. And then how long after you started doing that did you become pregnant?
So it still took us several years after that, of making those kind of changes, and kind of just incrementally. It's not something I'm still working on it today. It's not something that you just, I mean, I guess some people do, but I didn't just open my cabinets and, get a shovel and put it all out to the garbage, because you keep peeling the layers of the onion away, and you keep saying to yourself, well, what about this and what about that? And so that's what I did until, the consistency of the acupuncture kicked in. I did enough emotional healing as well. I'm a victim of sexual abuse, or recover,
Hmm.
as a child, and so I was doing a lot of talk therapy at the time too. I feel really strongly that there is a huge connection between the amount of people in the population that have infertility, and women that have been sexually abused as children. Those numbers there's definitely a lining up in those numbers. And so I had done a lot of healing on my journey, through that as well. Um, so we got pregnant with our first son, and we were, of course, overjoyed, and knew that we wanted to have other children. And so we went back to our infertility doctor, and at that point he told us that we would, now I'm 38, and he told us that we would need donor eggs at that point. And again, I was just like, no, I think, I just feel like this is going to work out for us. We did get a second opinion at that point. um, and that doctor, actually, I credit him with saving the lives of my twins, because factor five is something that I'm super passionate about. It's a blood clotting disorder. The geneticist that we saw said that up to 80% of the population is a carrier of at least, one of the genes. I
Hmm.
only have one copy. And they said, a lot of people carry this particular doctor that we had the second opinion from said that he had just given his IVF patients the medication that I would be taking when I got pregnant anyway, for the factor five. And so he gave me a prescription for that. So I saw him on a Tuesday, and then we got a positive pregnancy test on a Friday, and I was able to fill my prescription that day. And I really believe that every time I got pregnant, I actually got pregnant with twins, but I miscarried them. So I really credit that second opinion and having that prescription in hand with saving the lives of my twins. Because after that, several years later, 2 years later, we lost a set of twins because we weren't able to get the prescription on board fast enough. So yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So that's a beautiful story and such strength and just to overcome all of that, the pain that you, emotional, physical pain that you had to endure and go through. And It sounds like you had a strong belief. You're very eminent about that belief that you have. So that's beautiful.
Yeah.
So I love that. And then you were able to, your kids are 2 years apart, I believe you said?
So I had the twins when my son was 27 months old. Yeah. So I had
Okay.
3 under 3. And then we actually, at that same marker, that it would have been the same spacing when we lost our second set of twins. Um, and then if you quadruple that, then my last little guy was born 7 years after we got the diagnosis of 1%.
Wow.
Yeah. And so
Beating
I
the
left.
odds.
I know, beating the odds, and I left out an important part about the IVF. So, I feel like a lot of people think that, oh, well, everybody can do IVF. If you have the money, everybody can do IVF. And I actually couldn't because I was already hyperovulating. So a lot of people have heard about the medication Clomid is what they give you to produce your eggs so that they can harvest them, right?
Hmm.
But my body, I was already doing that. So they couldn't just get my one egg that I was, producing every month. So I think it's shocking for people to hear that you couldn't do IVF. People just think, well, if you have the money, you can do it. And there's a lot of people
Right.
that just are not candidates like myself for IVF. So
Mm. Yeah, and it's a battle to go through all the medical stuff, and it sounds like you learned a lot as you were going through it. You found out all these different health concerns that were involved that are genetics. So to be
yeah.
able to work with that and learn from that, that's incredible. So what do you do? So in your health coaching, is this what you have? I imagine you have wonderful guides to help ladies who are in this position be able to navigate this.
Yeah, I do. I'm super passionate about the factor five because it's such a confusing thing in the fertility world. Again, it's super common and it shows up a few different ways. If you don't mind me telling everybody
Right.
about it, yeah. So it shows
I'd
up
love
a
to hear
couple
it.
different ways. It either shows up as primary infertility, like I had, and so um, you either can't get pregnant at all, which I later found out that I was having a lot of chemical pregnancies. So what happens with that is you don't get the implantation, like you're pregnant, but you never get an implantation. And
Mhm.
so then you never get a positive pregnancy test. So I know that I was having a lot of chemical pregnancies because I had symptoms, but no positive. Or you have a lot of repeat miscarriages. So some of the people that I've come in contact with have had up to 12 miscarriages before they're
Wow.
diagnosed. And so here's the other confusing part. And the other thing that I'm super passionate about is advocating for yourself in the medical community and having your voice heard. Because even after diagnosis with this factor V Leiden, a lot of women cannot get the prescription that they need um, from their doctor to maintain their pregnancy. So there's a lot of controversy for whatever reason or differing opinions in the medical community about whether or not you need to be on a blood thinner from the very first pregnancy. But there's also a lot of women in the community that have had up to 12 miscarriages and then gotten on the blood thinning medication and then maintained their pregnancy. So um, I very strongly advocate for second opinions, for people to do their own research and that sort of thing. So the other thing that factor V does too is that it causes secondary infertility. So as you age, see how confusing it is. As you
Yeah.
age, your body kind of deals less well with the estrogen that you produce, and the estrogen is what causes the clot that prevents the implantation. And so you'll see people that get pregnant very easily in their 20s, and then they experience secondary infertility in their 30s, and it's confusing because they say to themselves and their doctors say to them, well, you've already had one healthy pregnancy, or sometimes it's even two or three, and they're trying for their last child and they hit this wall of secondary infertility, and it's factor V. I really, really advocate strongly um, for people getting tested, even if they have only had one miscarriage, or if they've had an extended period of time of trying to conceive. So
Yeah, wow. That's really interesting. I know our audience, there's a lot of ladies out there that struggle with infertility, so they would definitely need to connect with you. What's the best way to do that? I know we're going to have a link in the comments, but just to let them know verbally.
yeah, the best way to get in touch with me is either on my website, which is just my first and last name.com, or you can connect on Facebook. It's Flourishing Through Infertility. And we just focus in there on body, mind, and spirit, kind of healing trauma, focusing on the parts of undiagnosed and misdiagnosed um, parts of your medical journey and that sort of thing. So,
That's awesome. Well, thank you
yeah,
so much for sharing your
sure.
story and
Thanks for
your
having me.
expertise in that field. I'd never heard of it, so it's great that we have somebody that is an expert in that and that can help those who need to navigate that whole entire system. So thank you again for being here.
Sure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and thank you for joining us today. If you know anyone who struggles with infertility, please share this video with them and let them get it in connection with Erica so she can help them out on that journey so they can take a shortcut instead of having to go through the long journey of trying to navigate all the things involved with this type of uh, health concerns. There's so many different factors, and I'm obviously don't know what I'm talking about. So definitely connect with the expert Erica on that. And if this is the first time to the channel, please be sure to hit the subscribe button and tap the bell to be notified of the next video. We do come on live weekly every Tuesday with a new woman sharing their healing journey. Have an amazing night.